That is the biggest thing with a YouTube channel. That's kind of the end of it, and you'll never get started, and you'll never be able to get that first video out. Hello, I'm Hayden Bloomfield, and welcome to the channel. So the secret to knowing when to start that podcast, that YouTube channel, that business, when is the right time to launch? So in this video, I want to go through different steps and processes or different things you want to look at in launching your podcast, YouTube channel, business, whatever. I'll use these three things as they're all things I can relate to: a business, a podcast, and a YouTube channel. I've launched all three, so I've gone through the steps, looked at mistakes, and obviously there's things that going back I would change and such. So I want to go give you as much value there to see what mistakes I made and then how I'd move forward. And if I was to do it all over again, what secrets can you take away? What value you can take from me? And to start. I'll start firstly with business because it's the most significant thing, because that's the first thing I started out in is my own business, and it's where I took a lot away from it in launching a YouTube channel and launching a podcast, and looked at some of the mistakes I made. So one of the key things I would say is your why. Like, what is your driver? Know why you're starting this and make it, like, the biggest piece of advice I would say is make it something intrinsic to you. Have a reason you're doing something that's driven by you, that's not driven by an external factor, i.e. because you want, I don't know, Timmy down the road to think you're cool, or you want to get with so-and-so and they are really into YouTubers, so you've got to be a YouTuber. Make it about you, because that's what will drive you, because no matter what you start, you're going to find challenges and there's going to be a lot of barriers pushing you back that are going to be expensive, that are going to take a lot of time, all sorts of different things that are unforeseeable, uncontrollable, especially in business. Like, there's an unbelievable amount of things that can go wrong. So the reason I say that is because, when I didn't do this when I started my business, it was just something I fell into. So there wasn't a clear why, but what it meant is I sort of developed that as I was going, and that why kept me going through losing customers, losing staff, losing revenue, losing out on a job, or losing money on a job, all these different things. And so if you haven't got a clear why, you can quickly find you lose motivation. Like, if you start a podcast and you're just sort of driven by the idea that you can make loads of money from it and you could have loads of listeners, subscribers and such, and you don't get that, then straight away you're going to lose motivation very quickly. Whereas if your why is you want to tell your story, regardless of who's listening, you want to tell your story and put it across, much like what my YouTube channel is for this. It's just, I want to produce this content for me, and it's a case of me building a portfolio. Doesn't matter if anyone's listening, hi nobody, but having that motivator that is from within means that it will keep you going through those tough times. So that's the first point, is know your why. So point number one, why. In launching your business, the second thing is your research. So that would be stuff like your marketing strategies. Get to know, and as well, like, this is a hard subject to talk about because we all come from different. Like, you could be listening as a Harvard graduate from business school, so you've got a very good understanding and base knowledge of business, or I could be talking to someone that's in secondary school right now thinking, oh, I'm going to launch the next Tesla or whatever it is. So your research, I'm going to keep these quite broad points, but it's your research. So is that in business? Do you need to establish how your marketing, your sales, operations and finance is all going to work? And admittedly, you're not going to know a lot about that until you start. However, if you have been to Harvard Business School, then hello from England, but also you're going to have a good base knowledge about what that is, so I don't want to go into too much depth, but yeah, understand marketing. Essentially, how are you going to put your voice out there, your business, whatever it is, how are you going to get out to the crowds, to the right crowd? So yeah, if you could market to that exact person, who is that person, what do they look like, what are they spending time? Like, let's use a gardening business. All right, how am I going to market to the people who has gardens? Well, the wealthy do, because, or those with disposable income have gardens, those who have big gardens have gardeners. So how can I target my marketing to those people? And next point, in sales, right, how am I going to sell to them? Like, when I'm having the conversations, oh, they've invited me around to look at the garden. What conversations, what key points do I need to know? What are they looking for in a gardener? So, and a lot of this will be around talking to people and just finding those questions, and even finding the right questions to ask and finding the right answers to give. So go to a garden centre or go to gardening clubs and, like, just talk to people about their gardens, or people that even go on Facebook into some local group and be like, who has a gardener? What is the best thing about having a gardener? I'm debating getting a gardener. And so all these things that people will give you that information for free, and from the comfort of you sitting on the couch on your phone, just like on Facebook. So get as much information you can, just to try and give yourself a basic script. But then the point, once you've got that and after you launch it, is always testing and measuring, because I think for a lot of people, and a lot of business owners would agree, no matter where you start from, as soon as you get started, that's when you learn. It's a bit like learning to drive. If you've ever heard anyone say you don't learn to drive until you've passed your test, and I would agree with that. Is you take all the lessons, you learn to drive, essentially, pass your test, but that's when you learn to drive. So it's about just giving yourself the right foundation to start with. And so have conversations with people, try and ascertain what kind of script you're going to go in with when you look at a job, how you're going to answer the phone, that sort of thing. Operations, how do you operate as a company? And like, especially if you're starting a business, the whole concept is a business is a set of systems and processes that operates without one individual's needs of attendance. So this is where a lot of business owners misunderstand what business is. And a great book to read is Michael E. Gerber's The E-Myth. It teaches you about the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. So going into a business with an understanding of those different characters and how they perform and how they help the business. So with your operations, make sure there is a process. There's a process for opening the phone. There's a process for onboarding a client. There's a process for onboarding and recruiting new staff members. There's a process for retaining. There's a process for rewarding. There's a process for pay structure. There's a process for absolutely everything. Complaints, cancellations, rearrangements, all these things that you do, whether your business is in gardening, in software development, in feeding fish, whatever it is, operations. And again, it's the kind of thing that a lot of the time you won't really know until you go through the process of it. But the better foundation you can lay out, the better. But just as well, in that, have these things in place, but be malleable with it. Don't be set on building that operations spreadsheet that has all the information you need and then stick with it just because you've made it. Like, no, it can end up going in a bin and being rebuilt, or it can just need some adjustments. And then your finances, what sort of target turnover, what can you do calculations on your gross margins, your net margins? Do you know what gross and net margins are? Know what they are. Know what the definition of these terms are. So even from the first start is just building the base knowledge. So set the foundation, get your base knowledge, and start working on your research. So do you know what business is? Are you limited, sole trader, LLP, LLC? All these different things that have an understanding of what they will mean. Meet with an accountant, talk to an accountant about these things, because it will just build your base knowledge of all these things. Because when I started my business, and then I started building a network and talking to a lot of people, and that's where I learned a lot. But when I started, it was just a case of like weeding someone's garden. So there wasn't too many consequences if I went wrong. But get to know as many people as you can. Go networking. Just go to network meetings and say you're interested in starting a business, but it's just knowing where to start. Read as many books as you can on the subject. Get down, like search through eBay, Amazon, secondhand bookshops, charity shops, Waterstones. Just feed up and all go on this channel on the playlist of book reviews, where you'll see some great book reviews I'll do this will be in the future, but book reviews based around the key lessons to take away and what key books would be good for you to learn, especially about business. And once you've done your research, and so you've got your why, you've done your research, then you've sort of got a lot wrapped there. You've got a good base knowledge, you've set your foundation, and really I think then is looking at finances. Like, what is your current situation? Are you employed full time? Are you part time? Like, whatever your situation. Like for me, when I started my business, I was just casually working for someone, like a self-employed basis. So I was kind of already there as such. I didn't need to change anything in terms of my position being employed or anything. I was self-employed, so I just had to go out and just start charging for my services. And because that can have a huge significance. And the younger you can do this, or a time when you've got less responsibility, the better. Because if you're doing this when you've got 2 children at home, a mortgage to pay, bills to pay, it's going to be a huge challenge. If you can do this when you're at home living with your mum, then you haven't got much responsibility. It's a lot easier, especially if you haven't even got a job to start with. So what kind of money are you going to need? Are you going to need investment straight away? And do you need investors? Do you know what investment is? How does it all work? And that's the kind of thing that having an understanding of the difference between if you're funding yourself or if you're taking on investment, how that works and how that can how that can affect your control. Because for a lot of times, I wanted to own my business 100%, and then as I started learning more and more, I was open to the idea of having that support and having someone that was in it, that was invested in it as well as me, just because then you've got two brains together working on it. It's not about having an employee that gets their wage that's driving them. It's about someone that's actually got skin in the game. They're invested, so they want to see this company succeed just as much as you. But I never did, and then I'm thankful that I never did, actually, because when things went wrong and lost team members and everything, I was able to alter and twist and turn the business in any way that I see fit, and it was my decision. So now, being in a position where I think I pretty much want to hibernate the business as such, I haven't got answers to anyone. There's not investors that are saying, well, what about my returns and everything? It's just a case of, I want to do it. Can I do it? Yep, cool, sorted. And so that can be a big thing. And it's quite a daunting thing. If you are new to business, it's a very daunting thing, the idea of thinking about investors and seed rounds and how you even start. So I think it's the kind of thing that personally I'd want personally to have a business that failed before I take on investment, or have a business that I build up and then start a new business. So it's not something I would look at straight away. It's something I'd want to get a couple of years of business, running a business, building a business, managing a business behind me before I start looking at seed rounds and investment and such. That, however, could be completely different if I came from a background where I was taught. If I'd studied business, like if I was a Harvard grad or whatever, then I'd have a much better understanding of the process. But yeah, so it's about assessing and looking at the financials, what it's all going to cost for you to, assuming your calculation is going to be wrong for this, because it's always more expensive than you think, but sort of look at what you're going to need to get starting off. So like, for example, going back to me being gardener, I had a car and I had a few tools that I was able to borrow from my mum's shed and such. So I just started with some weeding jobs, and then I was like, right, okay, I've got some money, I can buy a lawnmower. Still went in my car. And it wasn't until like months down the line I'd saved up some money and then got a van. So you'll be amazed what you can start with and how little you actually need to get going, and you can still provide great value to customers and never feel embarrassed. Like at the time, like now, I'd feel embarrassed going in a car to do a garden job and getting like a hedge cutter out the boot that needs an extension lead to plug into. But at the time, I was just amazed that I was able to go out and provide this service in my own name. So don't be afraid of starting right at the bottom, but definitely have your calculations worked out, set yourself some targets in terms of what you do want to reach financially and how you can scale it. Like, is it a scalable business? Because you definitely need to know, what those customers are going to think. And so there's sort of 3 points there, and that would be a really great baseline to just, before you launch and getting started. There's so much more detail I could go into that, but I just want to keep this video to that broad outline. If you want me to go into more detail about it, like in terms of business plans, structures, financing, all that kind of thing, then comment below and I'll do it. I'll probably do it in the future anyway, but comment below and let me know what we can go into more detail with. So that's sort of 3 key points I'd take there for business. For a YouTube channel, this is an interesting one because it's the latest venture I've gone on, and it's something that I'm very early stages. So it'll be very interesting to see, like, people watching. If you are a YouTuber yourself, by all means critique me and destroy me for the information I give away here. But it's just purely based on my experience in getting started. What I would advise: step 1, get a YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel, obviously, but again, it starts very similarly. Is your why, your niche. Know what your content is going to be around. So like for me, the content is around, I've got something I want to achieve in my life, building sustainable wealth and building a sustainable lifestyle on this planet. So as I learn those lessons, I want to document it all and have it stored in a way that I can reflect back on it and even leverage it in the sense of format of a portfolio where, as I said, I want to have a lot of great conversations with people and interview them and just talk about if someone has achieved what I'm striving for, i.e. sustainable wealth. I'd love to sit down, take them for lunch and talk about that, how they achieved it, what they did, but where's the value in it for them? They talk about themselves for half an hour, whatever, but if you are someone who's built sustainable wealth, your time is worth a lot of money, and to sit there and just have lunch with someone so they can ask you all these questions to help themselves is, with this platform, I can leverage that in order to say, well, come on board and it's part of this platform. You can go out to these subscribers and viewers of the channel. So having your niche, your why, again, what's going to drive you for it, because if you want to be a YouTuber because it's really cool and people make loads of money, that's kind of the end of it, and you'll never get started and you'll never be able to get that first video out, or second or third or 500th. So yeah, have your why. Again, it's the same point of just your niche, but concentrate more on your niche as well. What is your niche? What content are you going to be producing? Because it's very easy to run thin of ideas, whereas if you have got that, as like with my platform, with my channel, it's about the lessons I learned, so it will perpetuate over time, because I'll always be learning, I'll always be picking up more information, whether it's new books, new YouTube channels itself, and new documentaries I've watched, or just life lessons, conversations, ideas, all these different things, achievements, whatever it is, it can all be documented into it. It falls into the content. So yeah, knowing what your content is and creating a bit of a brainstorm mind map, roadmap of what that content, like for example on my laptop, I just started listing all these video ideas, essentially they were just titles. I just started with a bunch of different titles I could work with, and then from there started looking at what the video would be. Like this one, for example, I just looked at knowing when to get started, and then from there I was thinking, well, what are the things I could talk about getting started? Well, YouTube channel, blah, 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 all these three things. So yeah, step one, your why, your niche, whatever, so that you know you will have that portfolio of content to create. Step two is again the same thing, it's research. It's just like one of the things I did was just jump on YouTube, how to start a YouTube channel, and there you'll just get a plethora of content around how to start, in terms of how you structure the channel, little things like your thumbnail and how you format it and put it into your style, and sort of the decisions you have to make early on. But again, it's something you can always adapt and evolve over time. But how do you go about like what's available there to edit and to upload, that kind of thing. So, and you can start, like with me, I've literally started with the most basic thing. Like this is the mic I use for the podcast that I just didn't cost me a lot, and I was working with a videographer that would Dave, that advised me on all the ideas of what to do. And then I just got my phone on a crappy stand on a box of roses and heroes that's standing up at the right height, and that's literally what this channel will be for a very long time. Is bare minimum, not costing anything. I edit it on bloody iMovie because I got a Mac and it comes for free. So you can literally start with nothing, and that's one of the great things I think about YouTube, is that you can literally start a channel with nothing. You can be a normal person living in England who has a phone. You can just record on your phone, and you can just you can literally, if you want to be that basic with it, you can just record yourself talking on your phone and then upload it without editing. Might not be great, but it's a starting point, and that's one of the key things that I'll talk about, is just getting started to learn from the mistakes. But again, research, and then once you've done your research and you've got a good idea of how it's going to work, what your channel's like, the artwork, the title, all these different things. And title's a big one, because I watched a great video on this, and it was talking about your title and how to go about finding the right title. And a lot of time, even just your name is, and hence why my name is just Hayden Bloomfield. So my channel it's all about my name, my work. So I was going to go for, I was going to go for finding financial freedom, but the channel was taken. Great channel, by the way, although it is on hold at the moment. But still, my name was available, so I went with my name. And then from there, it's just a case of get creating. That is the biggest thing with a YouTube channel, I think, is actually just getting creative. Start making those videos. Just work on the list of ideas you've got. Start working with it. Start recording, whether it's talking about business, filming yourself skateboarding, filming yourself painting, whatever it is. Just start working on that content. Build a little portfolio that you've got on your laptop. And my advice would be just upload it, because it's, in building that YouTube channel, the biggest thing is that consistency. To be able to say, like I've said, my target is to upload one video every week for 2 years. And it's having that content. And sometimes it's not about perfecting, like striving for perfection. You will never reach perfection, because as soon as you upload something, you'll realise what's wrong with it. But it's in uploading, and as you go along, and as you find the process, you'll find more efficiencies and how to do things better and quicker and smarter. And see as well, once you've got, like, you don't know what a great video is until you upload it, and then you start collecting the data to see what will work. And so there's my free for YouTube. And then last, podcast. So again, it's the same thing, same 3 points, but I'll translate the story into mine. So with the podcast, I had an idea of what I wanted to talk about. I had the niche, I had benevolent business in my head. I wanted to call it benevolent business. And it was all around, I want conversations with business owners and leaders that have built a business that impacts the world in a positive way, whether it's the environment, employees, the community or such. And so that was already there. The niche was there. It was something I was really into myself. It's something I wanted to do, and I was driven to learn more about. So I had my purpose, I had my why, I was driven for it, and I knew I could have great conversations. I had some great questions, what was great questions in my head lined up for it. And then I had a list of people that I knew I wanted to talk to anyway, and that list just built. And then as the biggest thing for me was then having an idea, doing your research. So yeah, it was researching how do you upload a podcast, watching videos on it, how does it work, and what platforms are there, how is it available, does it cost, what mic do you need? Do you need a mic? Can you do it on your phone? All these different things. It was during the time of COVID, so like going out and talking to people face to face wasn't an option. It was like, yeah, brilliant, we can do it over Zoom. Can you do it over Zoom? Is that a thing? And for me at that point, an interesting thing. So this is where everything I've done solo, this YouTube channel solo, my business solo. Podcast, however, I did it with Dave. So it was finding a partner was one of the biggest things. So maybe that's something that you should add into your business, your step-by-steps of business or YouTube channel. Is like, are you going to do it solo, or are you going to do it with a team, with a founding group, or just one other person? So for my podcast, I knew, like, I had the hosting ability as such. I could talk, I knew the content, I knew what the podcast was. I just didn't know how to produce it. So then the options was like, do I pay someone to produce it? Have I got the financial ability to pay for that? No, probably not. So, and as well, do I want to add all that load to my list of things I'm doing while trying to run a business? So while in the middle of a pandemic, so no. So it was about finding the right partner, and then that took 6 months of just like going around talking to people. Admittedly, I wasn't putting all my energy. It was just a case of whenever I could, I'd bring it up in network meetings and such, and talk to different people, and just people that I'd thought of that could work, that would be a good relationship. And then eventually got to someone pointed out Dave, and I thought, oh yeah, I knew of Dave anyway. So that's when we spoke about it, really keen for it, got started, and there we go. We then had the plan, and that's when we met up. We started looking at the plan, what key responsibilities we're going to take. And again, this comes back to reading The E-Myth by Michael E. Gerber, because there's a key part there about setting up, and the particular paragraph I'm talking about where he talks about setting up a business and having, if you've got 2 founders, separating the components of the business, your marketing, your sales, etc., and then putting responsibility, putting someone's name to each task so you know who is responsible. Because that'll be one of the biggest things, is that if you together have decided we're going to make this podcast together, right, we need some people, we need to produce it, you list all the things you need to do, and then you go, right, should we get started then? Yeah. And a month later, you suddenly think, suddenly you've both done loads of things, listing who you want to talk to, and you've reached out to them, you've got 20 people that are keen to talk, and then suddenly none of you have done anything else to like set up your channels and your platforms. Oh, well, I thought you was doing it. I thought you was doing it. So that's the key there. Like, just go and read that book. It explains it much better than me. So are you going to work with someone? Because that's what obviously Dave and me did. We were going to work with each other on it, and that's where we was met up. We started talking through the process. He would be producing, so that means he will do 1, 2, 3 responsibility. I'll be hosting, so I'll do 1, 2, 3. And then it's just a case of working through the process, obviously meeting up on Zoom as well, trialing that, getting a mic and everything, and make sure we had the right equipment. Dave was able to guide me a lot on that. And then from there, compiling our list, looking at who we both wanted to talk to, and reaching out to them, having a bit of a process there, chasing people up, chasing, getting people booked in and having a conversation. So yeah, that'll be a key point that I'll add in, is are you going to do it together or with someone else, and having that process and making sure you assign responsibilities to each other. And so literally, this is just like a brief introduction into getting started, because the key thing I want you to take away from this video is just like, right, okay, I can achieve it. I am someone that, even if I've done nothing, like I didn't really have a clue how to do a YouTube channel. I've done a couple of videos and uploaded things before, but really I don't have much knowledge in terms of video creating. And once you've done those things, which don't have to take too long, it depends where you're starting with. If you're starting with a basic foundation of the knowledge you need, it's not going to take you long, but it's something we can all achieve and we can all do. So go out there, create, because the biggest thing will be getting started. And like, in terms of when to get started, if you had no idea, I'd just say get started. Just trying to like go and sell your service somehow, or make that recording of the podcast, or make that video and upload it, because you will learn more in uploading 50 videos to YouTube than you will watching 50 videos on YouTube. It'd be interesting to do an actual study on that, but I would guarantee I'd be very certain to say you would learn more. Like, you need a bit of both, but just take as much information you can, but get started, get going with it. And yeah, comment below if you've got something that you want to get started in and what's holding you back, because hopefully people can comment give some positivity, get people out there, get started, get going. I hope it's been helpful. If there's anything I've missed, do let me know, because there's a world of information I've missed. This is just, as I said, a quick introduction into how you can get started. But I would definitely say, like, the key thing I learned from myself was, like, in business, obviously business was the first one that I took on. I just got started. I didn't even know what I was doing, and I was already started. So I remember having a conversation with someone about public liability insurance, and I was like, what's public liability insurance? Key thing to know. We do have it. But yeah, obviously at the start, when I was just me in the car, I didn't even know about that kind of thing. So, but get started, you'll make mistakes, you'll learn from it, and you'll improve. And that'll be the biggest thing, is that once you actually do get started, just test and measure, look at what's worked, what hasn't. So get those videos done, upload that weekly video, and after a couple of months, look at what videos have done well, what titles have done well, what ones haven't, what point of where are your listeners, your viewers, where are your customers, who's staying, who's leaving. And even if you've got a business and you've actually got face-to-face customers, you can get that information from them. You can ask them, interview them, not drop the mic, because obviously that's a bad idea. You can have those conversations with people. It's a bit different on YouTube. If someone starts watching your videos and then disappears and isn't interested, it's a bit harder to have that conversation. But getting as much feedback as possible and just being open to criticism and just take it on the chin, and just, doesn't matter how harsh people are, but just be able to receive that information and see how you can utilise it and improve it. That'd be one of the biggest things. So good luck, get started, and let me know how you go. Comment below how you get on. Until next time, bye.